Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chakra Way Meditation Podcast for another chakra chat. And, I talk to a lot of people about a lot of different things, but today I'm in my happy place because I'm talking to another chakra expert. So we're going to get geeky and nerdy with our chakras today. I'm talking to Catia Batalha, who is a psychotherapist, a yoga philosophy teacher, an author, holistic coach. And the thing that I'm most excited to discover about Katia is that in her degree, when she was doing her, I imagine it's the psychotherapy training, her dissertation was on the chakras
Mm.
and on how the chakras relate to our emotions and how we can use yoga to use to vitalize our God, have I just made up a word to vitalize our chakra system? And this is exactly what I love to do. This is what I've spent my the last many years of my life doing, integrating chakras, yoga, emotions, spiritual wellness. So we are singing from the same hymn sheet, and I am so happy to meet you. Thank you for joining me today, Katia.
Thank you, Rosanne. I'm very happy to be here and talk about this topic that we're both so passionate about.
I know this is um it's a little niche of life that both you and I know is utterly vital, fundamental, such an incredible tool to have. What drew you to it? Where did you come across the beautiful world of the chakra system and the yoga philosophy as well, which is so vital to this whole work? How and where and why did this land into your life?
Well, that's actually a unexpected story. I was suffering from some sexual trauma in my life, and as a result of that, my sex life wasn't great for me. I mean, I could sort of pretend to have a great sex life, but really it's not how I felt inside. And I had a friend in Lisbon. I was living in Portugal at the time. And I had a friend who said, there's a Tantra school that I heard about. Apparently they have really great results. You should go check it out.
Mm,
So I went as a attempt to spice up my sex life. And that's the
love it.
extent to which I'm expecting things to change. And I got there, and it was this one weekend course called The Art of Sacred Love, which I assumed was about sex. And in the end, it was about everything in the universe, how everything fits together, how it all works, the philosophy, the psychology of everything, and centered on the chakras, because the chakras, being our centers of energy, they relate to our physical body, our emotions, our mind, our spirit, and they connect everything together. And they connect us also to those energies outside of us, and all the healing that can happen through balancing that. So I was in that course, and I knew that my life was going to change completely. I recognized that as deep wisdom, that
Mm,
in deep in me, I knew that to be true, even though
yeah,
I never heard that before. But I had no idea how much my life would actually change at that point, what it meant to actually change my life. So
yeah.
yeah, then it worked like that. And eventually I became a yoga teacher, and I saw the same things happening to my students, that complete life shift. And
Mm.
yes, and I just became more and more passionate about it.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
love that when you put yourself into a place where you are open to receiving wisdom, and that wisdom arrives with such a massively full-bodied yes, this is
Hmm.
truth. And it's not something that your mind goes, oh, this is an interesting philosophy. It's a bodily yes, we've come home. This is it. And that's exactly how I felt when I found the chakras. I'm like, oh my God, why doesn't everybody know about this? It's just the most valuable knowledge in life, like whatever your life looks like, whatever you're doing. If you have this knowledge, it's like freedom. It's like a huge part of being a human is understanding that mind-body connection. And I think we find
Mm.
it, I think people experience it in a kind of roundabout way when they go to a yoga class and they don't really know why they're there, but they know that it makes them feel good. Um, and so, gosh, this was, yeah, that sounds like a lot to take in a weekend. It's like,
It
here's
was.
the whole of Tantra, here's all of yoga philosophy. It's like, yeah, off you go. It's a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. And it really changed my perception about what Tantra was.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because a lot of people think that Tantra is all about sex,
Mm.
and it's not. It's a hugely beautiful and wide over sort of fully encompassing philosophy on life. Yeah, and
Yeah.
brings everything together really beautifully. And so the training that you did a yoga teacher training, and
Mm.
then you did your psychotherapy training, or was it?
Yes. So I'm still attending my yoga course, whether you believe it or not. It's a 36-year course. Uh,
36 years.
yes, if you can believe it. So every week we go deeper into the teachings.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just unimaginable. We just study everything in the full depth of life. But let's not even go there. So
No,
yes,
but
eventually. Oh yeah.
I do want to just say that I
Uh-huh.
love that. I've never heard of a 36-year yoga course, but it just goes to show that there is 36 years worth of content within yoga philosophy, within yoga practice, within this
Mm,
incredible philosophy. And wow, I love that. It's
mm.
incredible.
I
Okay.
know, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we never repeat knowledge. So every week, different teachings. So yeah,
Yeah.
imagine that.
I know. I can't. That makes me feel very inadequate, thinking.
No,
But
like,
but the
yeah.
teaching, the study that you do as a yoga teacher is, I don't know, for me, I feel like it's very embodied. Like I learn on the mat. I learn as I'm teaching. And my yoga practice over the last 30 odd years, however long I've been doing it, has evolved so much. And it's not, I mean, yes, I've read a zillion books and listened to a million people and been to many, many classes and teachers. But what I find the greatest teacher is my own practice and my own
Mm,
and being in the classroom with people. That's always my biggest teacher, if you like, that's informed how I teach,
mm,
and what I teach. And the people in the room very much dictate how deep you can go on a philosophical level, on a just drip, 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 feeding these little gems
mm,
into, and some people are really open to it, and others you just like, I need to just go very gently, just one tiny little idea. And if that lands,
mm.
wonderful, let that settle for a bit. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you should mention that because the way that my school describes Tantra is as a science. And that is because you don't need to believe in anything to get the results. And this works really well for me because I'm a total skeptic, and I don't really believe in anything that I haven't witnessed myself.
Yeah.
So it's not like kind of prayer that you have to kind of hope for the best and believe that something good will happen. It's like with yoga, with Tantra, and the way that I study it, classical yoga, you do the practices and the practices are meant to have a specific result and you get the result. So that's what got me so convinced that this is actually true. It's provable, like it's repeatable, it's a science. And yeah, you don't need 36 years of yoga to realize that. Even after my first year of yoga, that we went through the study of the chakras one by one. It's actually, this is this is actually or also the story of my book that I've published recently called Echoes of the Timeless. We go through each chakra in depth. It's fiction, like it's a story. But each chakra we study and we do those practices that are meant to have a very specific result, like to improve your social skills, or like something very specific that you can prove that it worked or it hasn't worked, or heal a certain organ, or and I just saw the results. Like they said it was going to happen. I did the practices without really believing it was going to happen, but keeping an open mind, and then it did happen. And this is what got me so passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make this my life. Like you, I was like, I want to tell everyone about this.
Yeah.
This is incredible. But um, I guess yoga, first of all, it's hard to make a living out of yoga. And then it's when people are really suffering or at a point in their lives that they really need change, they aren't necessarily looking for a yoga teacher.
Mm.
And often what they're looking for is a therapist that can
Yeah.
help them through that. And hence, becoming a psychotherapist. I was in a totally different and random course before, and career before, and I finally gathered the courage at some point to change and become a therapist, so that I can now share this wisdom to people who are actually looking for a change in their lives. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you said, you were going to say something?
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
And as you said, in that dissertation that I've done for in the psychotherapy degree, I actually went and I needed to research this chakra business, because I wanted to know what other yoga traditions were saying about it. I needed to know if all yoga traditions saw the chakras in the same way than mine, or that they related to the same organs, or related to the same emotions, or did the same postures to balance those chakras and those organs and those emotions, or if each tradition was saying different things. And that's what got me curious to investigate and to do research, and come to the conclusions that I eventually came to through that research.
And so what did you find? I mean, let's take, for example, what you mentioned at the beginning, which was your personal healing, which was around a sexual trauma. So for
Mhm.
me, I'm thinking, sitting here in my orange room in my orange jumper, that you went to the sacral chakra to heal that, or were you in the root chakra? I'm really interested to And what did you find when you went to all the different yogic sort of teachings, methods, philosophies, schools, I suppose? Did you find that they were all on the same page, or did you find some differences? Because I find it quite interesting. I have a fairly, I have my view about where things lie in the endocrine system and the emotional system and all of the rest of it.
Mm.
But other people sometimes have slightly different views. So what did you find when you went searching throughout all of the different yogic schools?
Hmm. So what I found was that I was focusing my research on, well, do they agree on what chakras we have? So yes, then of course they agree.
Yeah.
And do they agree on what emotions relate to each chakra? And do
Hmm.
they agree on what postures balance each chakra?
Okay.
Because if they all agreed on that, then I could very clearly say, okay, if you do this set of postures, you will be balancing the first chakra, and
Yeah.
therefore healing, your feeling of unsafety in the world, or your kidney problems. You would be able to make these kind of links. So what I concluded after my research was that yes, the traditions agree on what emotions relate to each chakra. So that's across the board. But what I found was that they weren't really agreeing on the postures that balance each chakra, which is a problem because you really need the postures to make all of this work, right?
Yeah.
But when I went a little bit more in depth, what I found was there were patterns in or in what each tradition believed to be the postures for that chakra. So, for example, for Muladhara, the root chakra, not everyone agreed that the forward bend was the posture, the posture to improve and activate and balance that chakra. But they all agreed that the postures had in common the elongation or the compression of the sacrum, you know. So the postures were not the same, they weren't the exact same postures, but they shared this pattern. And that's what I found in my research was what are the patterns for the postures that heal each chakra? And then yes, I could see agreement amongst all traditions. Does that make sense?
Yes, 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 it does. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
that's a very interesting, that's a really interesting finding because, there is, very classical, there's a very traditional and classical way of thinking about it, which is, for the root chakra, it's strength and grounding, and so standing poses. But that's strength building, that's just one aspect of it, right? But actually, if you're looking at the root, which is like the base of the spine, we want movement in the base of the spine. So how are you going to do that without moving? Yeah, so that makes sense. And then did it go up? So, for example, with the heart and the throat chakras, did they agree that it was an opening and a closing of those spaces as well?
So yes, should I go through the chakras and
Yeah,
say for each
please,
one?
please, please, please
Okay.
do. Yes.
Okay, so let's go now for the second chakra. It was about elongation and compression of the pelvis. So,
Yeah.
this is kind of the location of the chakras as well.
Yeah.
I didn't come to this until the end of my research. Like, of course, this makes sense. But yeah, I had to get there through the research.
Mm.
And also hip stretches.
Yeah.
So you see, this is a bit on the side, but they also have that in common. And for the third chakra, Manipura, the postures were again two types of patterns. One pattern was the abdominal compression, elongation, and twist. And
Yeah.
another pattern was endurance. So endurance postures also activate Manipura.
Yeah. Okay.
Then we've got Anahata, so that's the heart chakra.
Mhm.
And yes, as you say, that was the elongation and the compression of the chest. But let me just say that it isn't about movement. It isn't about now kind of elongating and compressing the chest over and over again. Even in my school, we don't really do movement. Like it's very rare. Only in specific practices would we do movement. What we would consider is that each posture is in itself a portal to a specific state of consciousness and to an activation of a particular chakra. So
Okay.
if you do a posture for an Anahata, say, for example, cobra posture, that's the really activating for that chakra. um, you would stay in my tradition, a few minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes in that posture, because when you're in any given posture, then some channels are open, other channels are closed, and therefore there will be a specific energy flow. And we actually study that energy flow, like in my school. So, for example, for Cobra, there's a flow that brings the earthy energies through the feet and legs up to the heart. And there's a flow of energy that brings the celestial energies from up above through our head and into our heart. So it actually brings those two flows together in our heart. So we would study a posture for an entire week, basically, and really practice it and really try to get into that state of consciousness. And that's how we would balance that chakra. Does that make sense?
Love that. And this is so, excuse me, music to my ears because I was brought up, as most people who listen know, in the Iyengar tradition, which is very kind of like the posture, the alignment, and we go from one to the other and we don't stay in them too long. And I've long left that, although the roots of it still remain very much with me. And I think it's a lovely foundation to have because it's a very sort of it's just a good technical base, if you like. But as I get older and as I practice more, I'm finding an understanding that holding the poses, being gentle in the poses, actually really giving yourself time to feel the pose and to be in the pose and to allow the energy to flow. But also, from a physical point of view, your fascia doesn't start to move until you've been stretching it for like 90 seconds or something. So you need to stay in these poses. I think um, it's that's the challenge. Actually, then it becomes the challenge of your yoga pose, because everyone can just kind of do a cobra for like 5 seconds, but to hold a cobra for like 3 minutes, let's say, is quite a big challenge for most people who just come casually to a yoga class on a weekly basis or something. So building up to that, I think, is really important. But that knowledge that the pose itself has this flow of energy is something that I think a lot of yoga students don't understand. They just kind of, they just do the yoga, and I think a lot of classes are very much kind of like, oh, we're just gonna excuse me, bounce around from one pose to the other, in order that you feel like you've moved your body and you feel like you've had a bit of a workout or something, so yeah,
Mm.
music to my ears. Okay, so we've done the heart, let's move up to the throat. What's that all about?
Yes, and can I just say on that topic, it from my school's perspective, you wouldn't really do a posture and then move on to the next posture 3 seconds later. That
Mm.
would be like meditating for 3 seconds. You might as well not do anything,
Mm.
because you've just opened some channels and closed others, but the energy is not really flowing yet. You need to give it time. Otherwise, the posture it's just exercise. You're not really taking advantage of everything, all the healing and the shift in consciousness or any of that.
Mm.
Anyway,
Okay.
uh,
All right.
so yes,
Okay.
back to Vishuddha, the throat chakra. So that's pretty straightforward. It's about the compression or elongation of the neck. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like upwards or downwards. Could also be sideways.
Yeah. All network.
Uh,
And
yeah.
jaw as well. I find that the such a big part of the emotions of the throat chakra live in our jaw. So yeah, I love to do a lot of jaw work, getting people to do, well, lion's breath, I guess, and just opening. But
Mm,
an awareness, having just an awareness of what you're holding in your jaw is,
mm,
yeah, is key to this particular chakra. Yeah. Okay, so
and we hold.
third eye, third eye and crown are um, often more difficult in my mind to. I mean, I succeed, but it's more difficult to attribute a physical pose to. Having said that, now I can think of loads. But go on, tell me about the third eye and the crown. These more ethereal. Um,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you know,
Yes, definitely more ethereal, but I did find some patterns as well.
yeah,
And for Ajna, the third eye, let's say, it consisted either of inversions or balance postures or resting postures.
yeah,
So those three types. Yeah.
yeah.
And
Mm,
then lastly, for Sashara, the crown chakra, it was mostly inversions. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pure inversion. Yeah.
Okay, so this beautiful knowledge that you gather together through an academic study, which is so valuable, has informed your teaching, presumably. And
Yes, that's exactly where we were started to touch on. You asked me about my own healing and also how
mm,
that fits into all of this. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, I think it's going to answer the question that you just asked as well, probably. So, so I had two problems because of the sexual abuse. One, I felt unsafe in the world, like I felt like I couldn't trust men.
yeah,
And the second one was actually sexual issues, as in like a lack of libido, around that kind of scene.
mm,
And so the first one is actually related to the first chakra because it relates to safety, security, grounding, yeah, just feeling secure in the world. And I it's something that I didn't really even want to look at that much, because it just, to a degree, I felt safe. I felt safe as in I can walk down the streets, like I can do everything in life. I'm not afraid to travel India or South America, where, places where people say you can't be going there alone. And I was always fearless. Like, I'm just not scared. However, when we came to the more subtle layers of actually feeling safe with men and around men, then the story actually changed. So I wasn't aware of this, but how I became aware of this was because my body started to have problems. When I was in that relationship, I started to have actual sexual problems, as in problems in my sexual organs, and also problems in my ovaries. I had endometriosis, which is very, very common these days, for similar reasons. And it's very much there's a huge connection between endometriosis and sexual abuse. So for me, that's more second chakra.
Yeah.
But there's also a connection between just a feeling of safety or unsafety with men. And for me, that's because I wasn't good at boundaries. I wasn't taught that I could set boundaries or what they were, and I wasn't taught that I wasn't responsible for pleasing my partner, and that I could say no if that's not what I wanted, and all these things that probably kids are taught from a very young age these days, hopefully.
Let's hope so. Let's pray and hope that they are, because like you, I was not taught any of those things as well.
Mm,
And I too, when in my early 20s, I used to suffer with Bartholin cysts, which are deeply unpleasant and very much related to the sacral and sexual energies, and very, very very unpleasant and painful. And yes, I was not boundaried in any way, shape, or form, did not have any understanding, and just, yeah. So I experienced exactly the same, but way
mm,
long time ago, just at the beginning of my sexual life, I suppose,
mm,
um, that began to appear. And I didn't at the time know. Now with hindsight, I can look back and I go, yeah, because I was treated badly, because X, Y, and Z, and I won't get into the details of my experiences, but I can now look back on it and go, yes, those experiences led to this situation. And it
mm,
took me a while to,
mm,
to get
mm,
through that. And I had no idea of the emotional side of it and the energetic side of it. So yeah, sorry, little sidebar.
mm.
Carry on.
Yeah, yeah, no, but that brings, maybe I talk a bit more about endometriosis. So,
Hmm.
endometriosis, what it is the cells that are meant to be inside your womb, inside the uterus. Uh, the uterus is a yin organ, like it's a receptive organ. Females are, genitally receptive. Like we have a hole. We don't have something to put inside. So ideally, our flow is inwards. We welcome, we receive. But if we feel unsafe, then we can change our own flow, and that flow becomes yang. It becomes outward, and it actually, even the cells that should be inside the womb start to get out of the womb, because we kick out, we instead of welcoming, we kick out, because we don't want that thing there, and we don't want that man there, or whatever it is, like we don't want to be vulnerable, and hold
Mm.
things in. We just want to kick out, and then those cells go and attach to the outside of our womb or our ovaries or anywhere, and they create very extremely painful menstruations or cysts or whatever it is. So endometriosis is very much related to this pattern of sexual abuse, and changing our own flow so that it becomes yang, and emissive, and repels instead of welcoming.
That makes a lot of sense. that does make a lot of,
Mm.
and
And
I,
I had,
yeah,
yeah,
go on.
and I had surgery for endometriosis. And when I had surgery, the doctor told me, okay, the surgery doesn't really fix the problem. It just removed the current cyst. And now you have to take these hormones. I'm like, okay, so for how long should I take the hormones? Oh, you have to take them for the rest of your life. I'm like, the rest of my life? You think I'm going to take hormones for the rest of my life rather than healing myself? Yes, you must take it. Otherwise, um, that this will just continue to happen, and
Wow.
there's no cure for this. And at one point, I had a 3 centimeter cyst on my right ovary. And I never even bought the medication that I was prescribed, and I decided, no, I am going to heal from this, because that's how yoga is. It's empowering, and I know what it's about. I know what chakra it relates to, and I'm going to heal myself.
Mm.
And not it took a process. I went through a process of understanding all these things, and all the realizations and shifts. But it has been the cyst, first of all, disappeared. So it was a 3 centimeter cyst. It somehow disappeared, and I've never had it since. And my menstruations are not really painful anymore.
Wow. Well done.
So,
That's
and
incredible. It's wonderful as well. But also the fact that you sitting here with this incredible evidence of yourself just goes to show how powerful this work is. And it's intentional.
hmm,
So I'm interested to know, for you, when you were healing this situation, I'm sure that you were doing all of all of the yoga poses prescribed that you felt were going to work. And I
mhm.
love to have a guess at what they are, but let's not get into that at the moment. So you were doing the yoga, but what was the mind work? What was the philosophical work? What was the inner work that you were doing, the emotional work that went alongside the practice of the yoga poses?
Well, so I did a lot of woman's work. And I did some very specific practices. And first of all, I set that intention. I think the main thing to do when we have something like that is set an intention, because the intention itself will attract to us things that will, work towards that intention.
Yeah,
So
show you the way. Yeah.
exactly. So first of all, that intention of healing from sexual trauma. Then I started to attract certain things, and actually, this experience is also in my book. But so I find myself in this woman's sisterhood circle, meditation with the womb, and I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. Very early on in my yoga life, and I'm like, okay, let's check it out, see what it is. And so, very friendly, beautiful group of women. It's like, okay, let's all sit down, and let's all put our hands in our womb. And I'm kind of, do I even know where it is? Kind of, well, let's see what happens and what other people are doing.
Yeah.
So I put my hands in my womb, and then it was an inner journey towards, like, we were going towards the womb, and then we were kind of entering the womb and seeing, going inside and feeling all that warmth and that kind of
Nurturing.
coziness, nurture, yeah, pure nurture, like we're in, like a baby in the womb. And so first of all, like, I realized in that meditation that I felt no connection to my womb whatsoever at all. It's like it was a part of me that I'd never connected with, and I couldn't even visualize it in my mind. I'm very creative, but I just couldn't visualize it. And I look at the women around me. I take a peek. Everyone's meditating, looking very peaceful, and me, I'm sitting there and I'm crying. Like I just can't connect with my womb. Like, what the hell? Like the center of creativity of a woman, of power and of femininity, and I just couldn't connect with it.
Yeah. I mean, power source. Yes.
Yeah, and so through my tears, I finally managed to establish a connection with the womb. I'm like, oh, great, okay, let's go. And I go and I kind of enter the womb, and it's pitch black, and it feels dry. It feels like charcoal. It's not welcoming. It's cold. It was a horrific sight, and that was so shocking. It was showing me the neglect that had happened all my life, that I should have been protecting my womb and my feminine. And instead, I was just completely neglecting it and betraying it and giving it away for the sake of breadcrumbs of love and, pleasing others. And that was the result, a cold charcoal womb. It was so sad, but it also set me on a journey to heal the womb.
Yeah.
Now when I connect with my womb, it feels very warm and red and lively and all the things. But so that's just one example of a practice that happened, when I was healing from that. But also it set me on a course of understanding what beliefs I had that were around the betrayal of myself and around pleasing others and feeling like I owe men, and so all the conditioning basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's where the psychotherapy comes in, is that sort of going back and unpicking where the beliefs, where they came from, when they arrived, how they affected you in that moment, and how they've kind of become entrenched. And this is the part of your work that I love, is because I know I saw on your website you call yourself a spiritual coach. You're a psychotherapist and a yoga philosophy teacher, obviously, but that's so when you come into the psychotherapy space, when you're seeing clients as a psychotherapist, I mean, I'm presuming that they know what flavor of psychotherapist you are
Mm.
before
Yes.
they come in. So how, because this is the part of the work that I find really fascinating. I teach people, I lead people through the chakra system. I say that my course, when it's a one-to-one, it's a 7-month thing, but it's never been 7 months. It's always been like a year at least,
Mm.
and then more usually, because this work just keeps on going, and it's not like, oh, I've arrived, I know it all, now I can just toddle off and get
Mm.
my life. It's like, no, this is like, okay, I've just breached the first hill, and now I can see that there's a whole mountain range in front of me, and let's go, let's do this together.
Mm.
So when you're and when I'm with somebody like that, and we're obviously we're working our way through the chakras, we're doing the yoga and the breathing and the meditation and all of the good stuff, it then always comes back to conversation, and the conversation around their patterns and their what's been going on for them in their lives, and that's the bit that I find really fascinating and actually really healing. That's the bit where people make that mental leap and they have that aha moment of like, oh, now I see. That's the moment when things really begin to shift. Is that, I guess that's why you do what you do as well, because is that your experience as well when you're working with clients?
Yeah, for sure. And I find that we can just tackle the work from all the angles, right? If we know all this. So, for example, if I ask someone, how is life going? They might just know that they're feeling depressed, but they might not know more than that, or they feel anxious, or they think, no, everything's going all right in my relationship, and I suspect it's probably not, but they seem to think that everything's all right. And then I ask them about what's happening with your body. Oh no, it's all good. Okay, how's your menstruation? Is it painful? Is it, oh, I have huge bleeds. It's very, very painful, all this. Oh, okay. How's your immune system? Because this was part of my healing as well. I had a chronic autoimmune horrific disease that also was said to have no cure, and the specialists in the world were having conferences about it, and are still having conferences about it, because nothing really works for this disease. And the immune system it's the protector of our body, when we think about physical things, but also emotional things, So if we find that the world is an unsafe place emotionally, then we're going to have weird stuff happening with our immune system. And that's what was happening with me. And so yeah, I ask people, oh no, I always have like allergies, or I have this, or I have eczema, or I have hives, and so their body is telling me what's happening with them. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes they're taking on too many responsibilities, and that kind of pattern. And I asked them, yeah, how's your body going? Oh, my body's doing great. Okay, so what about tension in your shoulders? I always have tension in my shoulders. Yes, yes. So people just normalize all the things that
Yeah,
are happening in their body instead of taking that as indicators of something that's not right in their psyche. Because my opinion is still that nothing should be wrong with our bodies. They should function absolutely perfectly. And if they're not, they're trying to tell us something, and they're actually really, really wise.
yeah.
And yeah, it relates to the chakras, it relates to the
The wisdom of the
emotions.
body. Yeah, the wisdom
Yeah.
of the body, the whole the body holds all of the wisdom. Like we, and I say this so many times, and everyone's very bored of me saying it, but we have
Mm,
this idea that our brains, our brilliant mind has all the answers. No, the body has
mm,
all the answers. Not only
mm,
does it have the messages to tell you what's going on, it also holds the wisdom to heal that and to release that.
mm,
And this is why recently I've been, well, recently over the last year or two, I've been doubling down on my study of the minor chakras, because I find that that's giving
mm,
really fine detail on where people's energies are. So, if somebody has like an imbalance, and they may not have a painful right knee, or but I can see, I can read that there's an imbalance in the right knee chakra. Sounds really unglamorous
mm,
when you say yeah, a slight imbalance in your right knee, but the meaning behind that is so significant, because it's like, well, how are you stepping forward in your life? Like there's an imbalance around how you're beginning to step forward in your life. So let's look at that. What is going on for you in your next steps? Um, and you will always find that if someone has a pain in their right knee, or an imbalance in their right knee, it's because they've come to a crossroads in their life, and they're like, I don't know what to do next. And from
mm,
there, when you realize, but so even down to these kind of fine details of the body has so much wisdom. And the chakras are, like, I like to call them like a secret map. And I don't want it to be secret anymore. I want to scream it from the
mm,
rooftops so that everybody understands the map of their body. Because when they do, and you're so right, we normalize, oh, I get migraines, or I always have a bad back, or I have, you know, yeah, we normalize all of these things as just being, oh, it's just a thing that happens, and not going, well, what on earth does it mean? Like, what is your body trying to tell you? Because we have been conditioned out of listening to our bodies. And I'm sure that the shamans and the wise old medicine ladies of, in the villages, in 1500s, they could tell just by looking at a body and listening to a body what it was trying to say. And then there'd be herbs and unctions and all sorts of weird things. But the body has always had the wisdom, which is why, West Eastern medicines, like in Eastern philosophies, the yogic philosophy, but also the traditional Chinese medicine, works very much on the same basis, the meridians and so on, have understood that the body holds this energy, and we just need to get the energy flowing. So I think,
mm,
so our mission, Katia, like, how are we going to get this out into the world so everybody understands this? I feel like it's such an important thing that everybody understands.
mm.
Um, yeah, anyway, that's why I'm here.
Mm, yeah, definitely. And people what I find is people are so disempowered because they sometimes even know what's wrong. They know they have a problem in their immune system, but they don't know that that relates to the first chakra, and that relates to feelings of unsafety in the world. And that's what they need to work on. And they need to discover the patterns of why they start to feel unsafe, and how they can move, what a new reality looks like. They haven't, if you don't have this whole picture, to understand how the body fits with the emotions, fits with the mind and the spirit and the energy that binds it all, then it's so disempowering because then what do? You just go to a doctor, they'll prescribe medicine that you have to take for the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, let's take for example somebody who has eczema. So it's just an irritation. It's not like a major thing, but it's an irritation, and it's certainly an outward, and it's skin, so it's definitely root and all of that. Um, if they're saying, yeah, so if someone has eczema and it's an outward thing, it's not going to be like a one size fits all. So you and I, in our expertise, say, right, this is a root chakra thing. So do these poses, do this breath work, understand this philosophy potentially. Like, but it's never that simple, is it? Because
Mm,
everybody's story where they've got to that place of feeling unsafe comes from a completely different place. So it's
mm,
not a one size fits all solution. It is very much a bespoke situation. So, like two brothers who have eczema, they may be having had the same childhood experience, but the actual root of the eczema may come from a completely different place. Am I right?
mm. Yes, totally, totally. And there's more factors than the ones that we've mentioned. And it's good that you mentioned eczema specifically because as part of my journey of my own healing of autoimmune condition and things like that, I actually did my internship in Auckland Hospital in the immune autoimmune disease department, kind of,
Yeah.
in this psychosomatic area, basically, and
Mm,
learned a lot about it in the process. And we did start to see patterns. And with eczema, it happened to be a lot around toxic environments. So, for example, if there's poison in the air, of course, your skin is going to get all, messed up.
yeah.
And it's the same thing. If you're in a toxic environment emotionally, then your skin is going to react in the same way. So we did find that link quite often with eczema. So it's not even just our mind, emotions, body, that we've been mentioning so far, but there's just so much more.
Mm,
There's, for example, I'm thinking about the connection with ancestors, where do we come from? The power that we get through our lineage, what was passed down to us and what have we lost, that wisdom of the ancient ones and the spirits that can be on our side supporting our work. The power of community, in yoga we call it sangha, of course, but um, like how can we rely on each other and surround ourselves with the right people who are doing this kind of work and are in the same vibration? Because you may be doing amazing work, but if you live in a city and have I don't know, a very unhealthy diet and you're drinking alcohol and there's only, you're leaking energy all over the place, so you're not gonna have great results. You may be doing a great sadhana, a great yoga practice, but then you're leaking energy everywhere. So it's to consider all the aspects that influence us as human beings in this life, and see how they're supporting us or the opposite.
mm, mm. Amazing. Yeah, yeah. No, this is why this work is so um it's not like you can read a book on the chakras or on the yoga philosophy and begin an understanding, but to actually heal yourself or to help somebody else heal, it's a very it's as unique as each individual is unique, of course. And that's where Western medicine falls down, because it goes, oh, you've got eczema, so I'll give you the same medication that I've given the last 150 people who walked in here with
Mm,
eczema. And it's like, okay, so actually you're just adding some more toxins because it's probably petroleum-based steroid gel that you're slapping onto your skin. And, yeah, it might be effective in removing the symptom of the sore skin, but it's not actually going to heal that work. And that's the work that each
mm,
individual needs to do. And it may sound daunting, this work. It's like, oh God, I'm gonna have to change my whole life and move out of the city and stop having my glass of wine at night. Help, help, I can't do
mhm,
that. But it's not as I want you to, I want to kind of make people understand that it's not as scary as that. It's actually a beautiful gift that will enrich your life as you work through this. And this is not like you're going to school and you've got to, it's just an evolution of yourself. It's it's just beginning to get those drops of understanding in so that those shifts happen naturally. And
Mm.
yeah,
Definitely, it can be as gradual as people want it to be. Like there is no reason to hurry, and there's
yeah.
no wrong choices, People just do whatever feels right to them. And my experience is it's actually been a really, really natural process, really fluid, because as you start to do this work, your vibration becomes higher, like your resonance becomes more elevated, and therefore you'll just stop attracting certain things, certain patterns, certain people, certain environments, and your body will naturally reject certain things. Like my body just rejected alcohol, like very early on. It's simply, and I used to drink a lot, like it was it was a top coping mechanism for me. And my body was just like, nope, no, no alcohol, no alcohol. And there was no choice there. It felt wrong. And not morally, just physically.
Yeah. Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is extraordinary when you start to communicate with the body what it will tell you and what it will it will tell you what you want, what you need, what's right, what's wrong. In the same way that you can open the fridge and go, what do I feel like? And your body will tell you. It'll go, I feel like having something really hearty, and I need to have some ballast. So let's have some pasta. Or actually, I'm feeling kind of lethargic. I need something fresh. Like your body
Mm,
will tell you. You're already experiencing that on a day-to-day basis. Because you make
mm,
these, your body's already making these choices. You're just not aware that that's what's happening. You're just kind of youth again, a lot of people attributing it to your mind and to your brain, and not
mm,
thinking actually it's the body that is sending these messages and communicating with you. Katia,
mm.
I feel like I could talk to you for a very long time. I feel like we've scratched the surface, and you've got decades of experience, and I feel like you've got so much value to add to this world. And I love this book that you've written, a novel. Is it kind of a little bit or semi autobiographical?
Well, I can't confirm or deny that.
Yeah, well, it
But
sounds
yeah.
wonderful. It's a very lovely way of introducing the idea of yoga philosophy and the chakras
Mm,
to take it into an adventure,
mm,
the journey of a person. So, yeah,
mm,
I think I might invest in your book. So, Katia,
mm.
tell everybody how they can get in touch with you, and yeah, how they can work with you as well, because I know you've got some courses, but then you've also got your one-on-one and so on. So yeah, just tell people a little bit about how
Mm.
they can work with you and how could they get in touch.
My website is the Central Way, catiabatalha.org. And yeah, my social media is there. Feel free to add me. My courses and books and things are there. So
I'll
that's
put
the
a link in
Central
the
Way.
show notes for everybody. So if you want to go and look at Katia's work, it's incredibly valuable. And thank you for doing this work. Thank you for studying so hard and for doing this work and putting this work out into the world. Lord knows we need it. And please continue to shout it from the
Mm.
rooftops as often and as loudly as you can, because needs to be out there. Yeah. So,
Thank you, Roseanne. It's been a beautiful, I had a beautiful time here today, and yeah, and I love that you're sharing that with the world so passionately, and uh, reaching the hearts and minds of people who are needing to hear these things. So yeah, I hope everyone out there continues to follow their intuition, follow their inspiration, follow their heart, and tune in and listen, because yeah, the answers are there.
mm,
Mm.
wonderful. Thank you, Katia.
Thank you.